A new show released on Disney Plus, probably, maybe, kind of an anticipated show. It's kind of underrated, to be honest. I really liked the first episode, She-Hulk, so this is going to be my review for it. So this is going to be a great show, in my opinion, so far. Jennifer asks the responsibility of people with power, and she's practicing a closing argument for people in court. That's pretty much the start of the show, and really goes through everything. Should people with power, have responsibility to really use it to protect people? That's the really main question. Jennifer and the paralegal talk about different things, and then some other lawyer who's a douche walks in and pretty much doesn't like Jennifer at all. I don't really know why. And then it goes a few months ago when her and her cousin Bruce were on a road trip, and Jennifer has a theory that Captain America was a virgin. That's pretty much the crux of the theory, asking how, if he was busy before the super soldier serum and all this other stuff, which is kind of a good theory, to be honest, but later it kind of confirms that he wasn't. A ship lands and they pretty much crash. They run into it and pretty much run off the guardrail and fall. Jennifer's okay but injured, trying to get Bruce out as well. She turns into She-Hulk because their blood, like, his blood falls into her blood and it, like, combines. In the original story, it was kind of a stupid. In the comic book, the original origin story of She-Hulk was he gave her a blood transfusion, which MCU Banner would never do the same thing. He doesn't want people to have his blood. It would be a curse to him. I like this one a lot more when the blood falls into her blood on an open wound. That was the main thing. I really like this. And she runs in the woods and becomes She-Hulk. The Hulk says he's about to turn and to run away. Jennifer wakes up in the woods at night at some random place, and she finds a bar. Jennifer sneaks in through the back. A group of women really help her out, which is a very good thing, and make sure she's okay. A group of men just start harassing her out of nowhere, and she becomes She-Hulk and attacks them, and in my opinion was a good thing. She-Hulk wakes up in a random house by the beach, which later on is turned out to be Bruce's house. She-Hulk walks down the stairs and sees the Hulk working. It's like more smart Hulk, I guess. It's pretty much two different ones. Now he's kind of committed to Smart Hulk in Mexico. He spent a lot of time after the blip in here, and pretty much that's what he did. And Hulk says that the amount of gamma radiation she had was actually a lethal dose, but somehow it helped her, which is kind of interesting to see how it could have been lethal but ended up not being. I wonder if it had something to do with the genetic similarity between the cousins, something like that. Jennifer asked Smart Hulk about egos, I guess. That was a pretty interesting conversation about his ego and things like that. Calling himself Smart Hulk, is that egotistical, things like that. Gamma blood is way too dangerous to give away, because she's trying to pretty much get... So Hulk had this thing on his wrist where he could contain the amount of Hulk he had, and it was a prototype that gave him like a certain amount of Hulk thing on his wrist where he could be like a certain percentage chance of Hulk. I get it's kind of confusing to explain, but you'll just have to watch the show to really understand what I'm talking about. It'll give him like a certain time limit, I guess, or some sort of power level. Hulk says it's a prototype, so that's kind of unfortunate because she has to be a lawyer. Hulk says she needs to stay there until she can control her anger, and gives her a book supposed to take 15 years. That's what he said. It took him 15 years to do that. That triggers anger and fear to Hulk, and he sets up razors, and She-Hulk just comes out and rips them off the door. She finally turns to She-Hulk and rips the door off, and he just complains about how big the price is and stuff like that. And she's still conscious as Jennifer, which is very interesting. The Hulk doesn't have the same abilities. He's kind of jealous of that. She-Hulk needs to control when she transforms back. That's pretty much what he's really wanting her to do. Hulk says he was including when he happens. And he was pretty much Hulk for 2 years during Ragnarok, which was very interesting, noting down what happened, trying to figure out what happened. That's why he was jealous, is because pretty much he didn't know what happened for 2 years of his life, and it pretty much taken away. Hulk says rage is a bad thing, and She-Hulk has to do some yoga to control hulking out. She-Hulk wakes up to a blowhorn, which pretty much instantly turns into the Hulk from Jennifer. They do yoga together. He says switch to spandex because they don't break. Like, usually the Hulk in some of his comics will have like the purple pants. They're reduced to shorts because of how big he's getting. So I think that's probably a good idea. Hulk shows off by throwing a rock. The upside of being a Hulk is drinking a lot and not getting drunk. Tony and him actually built the bar together. Hulk and She-Hulk start meditating. She-Hulk says she's not going to be a superhero and says I'm going to be a lawyer. She-Hulk says she controls her anger by just being a woman. I definitely do understand this and get what this means because it's a definitely thing that needs to be addressed with pretty much the comments people make about women and things like that. And somehow Soups didn't realize this before the show. A lot of people were making critiques about him, pretty much saying how didn't he realize this. It took him an MCU show to realize that a lot of people make bad comments about women and things like that. And I just don't understand Soups sometimes. A lot of people say he's overly hated, but I don't really think so. I feel like perfect amount. She-Hulk turns in his Hulk and She-Hulk and She-Hulk back and forth, which is very interesting overall. Hulk can't even do that. Hulk doesn't want her to leave and asks who is going to protect the world. She-Hulk. This is honestly very interesting overall. This is when it gets interesting. Hulk doesn't want her to leave, so he tries to stop the car, and he falls into some rocks. She-Hulk throws the Hulk and misses, landing. She-Hulk actually gets thrown by Hulk off the thing, and by him doing the thunderclaps, and then she does it. It doesn't work, and then she tries it again and it works again. This fight is honestly very good. I definitely like this fight overall. They wrestle each other and destroy the bar, and then they fix it. But this fight was honestly one of the best scenes of the show. It really shows the power level of Hulk and She-Hulk and how I would say they're really not that far off, to be honest. I think Hulk is probably still pretty stronger, but Smart Hulk isn't as strong as regular Hulk, so we'll have to see if he ever goes back to that point. How strong will he be? But then they fix the bar, and he lets her leave. She-Hulk apologized for all the harsh things she said about him, and pretty much all the trauma he's went through, saying that he's gone through a decade of trauma, just being with an agency and being left lonely by him, and how he has a lot of trauma. And then Hulk pretty much stopped the car. That was the main thing that happened. And they're in the courtroom doing their final statements, and she's about to be up right next, and someone just crashes through the wall, and as she's walking up to talk, when it's her turn, she hulks out and throws the woman and pretty much knocks her out, and pretty much says she's Jennifer Walters, and that's pretty much the ending of the show. Attorney at law, she says at the end. I would give the rating episode 1 of She-Hulk 9.3 out of 10. I would give the CGI 9.0. Definitely some improvement. A lot of people were talking about the CGI and how bad it was before. I think it's a 9.0 out of 10. That's my rating of the CGI. Comment down below your opinion, but see you later.